so I'm very excited to share that we're super deep in early writing and planning.
Yes! That's right, RWBY is returning, and I thought a good way to celebrate would be to play the other RWBY game that I have yet to get to, RWBY Arrowfell. Now, funnily enough, I was thinking about looking at Blazblue Cross Tank Battle next, considering it is the chronological next RWBY game, but technically, RWBY's just a part of that game, and also you had to finish like 3 stories in order to even unlock the RWBY one, and I wasn't going to bother doing that, so I decided to skip to the next official RWBY game, and here we are today. But with that being said, how about we just dive into the game already, and what better way to start than the story? The story of this game actually takes place in the middle of Season 7 of the actual show, as we follow Team RWBY on their very first mission as newly licensed huntresses. As Grimm have been detected on a summit just north of the city Mantle, and they have to go investigate what it is and slay any Grimm that stand in their way. I should probably also mention that I'm going into this review assuming that you know a thing or two about RWBY, and if you don't, go watch it, it's actually pretty good. And we're in, and listen to this music! RWBY Arrowfell is a Metroidvania and is made by WayForward, the same people behind Shantae. Oh no. Oh god, no. The controls are pretty simple. All you can do is move around, jump, attack, use the character's unique semblance, and shoot a projectile that uses up some aura, which acts as a tiny health bar, but once it's gone and you take a hit, you lose one of the hearts up there. But doesn't that seem a bit backwards? I mean, in the show, your aura is used up by using your semblance or getting hit. Why is it that here, it's used up by you firing your weapon? Doesn't make sense. This level has you dealing with swindlers. Lemur-like Grimm that attack you by jumping up and down multiple times, and these guys get really annoying to deal with later on. Ravager Grimm that resemble bats and fly at you in a wave pattern. Beowulfs that try to bite you, and Borbotas that charge at you before hitting a wall and flipping over, giving you a chance to attack. At various points throughout the level, you're given tutorials on how each member of Team RWBY's semblances work. RWBY's semblance lets her turn into rose petals and dash a short distance while becoming invulnerable for a short time. Weiss's semblance lets her create a glyph platform that she can use to get to higher up places, or she can let it dissipate and shoot ice in a circle around the glyph, damaging any enemies that the ice comes into contact with. Blake's semblance allows her to make a shadow clone that she can make stand on pressure plates, or she can make it copy her attacks and basically double her damage. And Yang's semblance lets her punch down and cause a shockwave that damages enemies and destroys stone blocks. These are a neat idea and it adds more to the level design, and you can even combine them. Like here, I used Weiss's semblance and RWBY's semblance in tandem to reach this hidden chest and get a skill point. That's right, skill points are back and they can be found in chests scattered across the level, and they are used to upgrade your skill tree. But unfortunately, this skill tree isn't as extensive as the one in Grimm Eclipse. You can only upgrade your melee attack, your ranged attack, your defense, and how much aura you recharge over time. And it's at this point I should probably mention that for each chapter of this game, I will be looking at each member of Team RWBY. So for chapter 1, I'll be looking at RWBY, chapter 2, Weiss, so on and so forth, just to give each character their time to shine, and so I have some time to play as them obviously. So I make it to the next part of the level and... why is it silent? And why is there an ominous machine in the middle of the screen? Is this a boss? Oh, it's a save point. Thank God it gave me time to register that, because look at that view! Atlas looks incredible up there. Let's just hope nothing happens to it. So we make it to the end of the level and come across this mysterious orb that we have to destroy because it's causing more Grimm to show up. So we do that, and Team RWBY decide to head off to Mantle to figure out what the orb is, ending off the prologue and starting the first chapter, the mysterious orb. So we head to the next area and meet up with Pietro Polendina and Maria Calavera. We give the broken orb to Pietro so he can analyze it, and he tells us that in the meantime we should check out a little settlement in the east called Essen Town, because there was an incident with Grimm there, so we head off to go do that. And here we are in Essen, and it's the first example of what I'm going to call a town in this game. In these towns you can talk to different NPCs who occasionally give you different quests and levels to go through. Like this girl, Cerise Claire, who says that she's lost a precious book of hers and comes to the conclusion that she must have dropped it whilst escaping some Grimm. She points out the direction and marks it on her map, and we agree to get it back for her. We also come across this travelling merchant who sells us different items that help us on our adventure, like healing items that restore some of our aura, rings that allow us to come back to life after we die, skill points, and even an extra heart so we can take a few extra hits, which I bought since it was the only thing I could afford at the time. So we talk to this guy and he introduces himself as Russet, the self-proclaimed guardian of Essen. He says that there's a cave that's crawling with Grimm not too far from here and marks it on our map. He then mentions that he needs help in making some RWBY armor, and tells us to find 2 essential ore, 1 for each cheek of course, to which we set off to do. But not before heading to cross the remains so we can try and find Cerese's lost book. This level introduces us to Beetle Grimm, that flash and beep for a moment before self-destructing and sending 4 red projectiles in the ordinal directions of their enemies. Ordinal directions? Is that right? Yeah, okay. Good to know. So I found the book hidden in a chest in the level, and I know that there's something else up there, but I just couldn't for the life of me reach it. I don't know, maybe I needed an extra upgrade or something, so I just left it for now. So I made my way further through the level and managed to come across Penny Polendina, who has found this weird gate and is investigating what it is and how to open it, but she can't right now, so we leave. Further into this level, we find this woman, Zure Ayu, who has forgotten her pickaxe and tells us that if we come across one, that we should come back and give it to her. And with that, we've done everything we can in this level, so let's head back to Essen and give Cerese her book. And when we do, she tells us that it has handwritten records of her ancestors who fought in the Great War, and she rewards us by giving us a pickaxe. Fuck. So we head back to Cross Remains, give Zur the pickaxe we just obtained, and she gives us one of the 2 essential ore that we need, after which we leave and head to the next level, Essen Cave. Nothing much really happened here. I just got more skill points, dealt with an ambush, and got the 2nd essential ore that we need, so we can finally head back to Essen and give them to Russet. When we do, he tells us that he doesn't actually know how to turn them into armor, and tells us to find someone who does. Fuck you. So we take the essential ore back to Pietro, and he somehow makes the armor. Like, seriously, how? I don't see any smithing equipment here. He also gives us the orb that he fixed up, and tells us that it has the power to store energy. So we give the armor to Russet, and he tells us that a gigantic Grimm has appeared at the outpost, so we head off to take it down. And it's boss time, as we get a cutscene of Team RWBY talking before boom, a Grimm Goliath drops down from space and the battle commences. The Grimm Goliath only has 3 attacks. He can either dig up a boulder with his trunk that breaks when it lands and splits into 4 projectiles that fly in an X formation, stomp the ground and cause 6 stalactites. I wrote stalactites in the script expecting to say it. Really, me? Are you stupid? I can barely say the word the. Stomp the ground and cause 6 stalactites to fall from the sky, or charge directly at you, which you need to avoid by jumping over him using the platforms on either side of the arena, when you see him scrape the ground with his foot twice. And he is a beefy boy. It took me 2 minutes and 15 seconds to beat him, and that's with me doing 6 damage per hit, and with me roughly doing 2 hits per second, that means he has approximately 1,620 health points, if my math is correct that is. But with that, we defeat him and get this nice animated cutscene of Team RWBY taking the Goliath down before it suddenly gets back up, and we see this mysterious team of huntresses work together to take it down properly. They tease Team RWBY for a bit before this guy shows up and scares them off. He introduces himself as Bram Thornmane and says that those girls are actually rogue huntresses going by the name Team BRIR, but I'm going to be honest, because of how it's spelt, I called them Team BRIR throughout my entire playthrough, which after a while started to sound like a YouTube poop. He notices the mysterious orb we have and assumes that it could be military tech and that it could be dangerous, so he asks Team RWBY to give it to him so we can properly dispose of it. A bit sus, but why not? So we give it to him, he walks off, but not before telling us to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Olive Harper to learn more about the orb, and Chapter 1 ends. And we're immediately thrown into Chapter 2, Aces and Wildcards. You said aces? Chapter 2 starts with us talking to Harper as per Thornmane's request, and she says that it will take some time to figure out who was responsible for the orb, and that in the meantime we can help Clover and the Aesopes with their missions, which we set off to do. Once we enter the hall, we speak to Clover and the other Aesopes, and they tell us that they're each going on solo missions and tell us to help where we can. After this, we talk to Elm about Team BRIR and ask if she's heard of them. RWBY describes their semblances, like blowing fire, swimming underground, and portrowels that seem to bend physical space. Portrowels? They spelt the word wrong! Everyone point and laugh! Elm says she hasn't heard of them, but says she'll look into it, all for the price of a grape soda that we can find on Atlas Main Street, which she marks on our map. So here we are on Atlas Main Street, and oh my god, that background is beautiful. Seeing Atlas from a distance was one thing, but this blows it out of the water. This level introduces us to some of the new enemies for this chapter, like the male thug with mace/cybernetic arm, and the female thug with the soap machine gun. Such creative names. The male thug uses his cybernetic arm to slam the ground and send a boulder flying towards you, and the female thug jumps into the air, either straight up or backwards, and fires her gun at you. We bump into Marrow in this level, and he says he left his goggles behind at Tumak Ruins. He marks the ruins on our map and asks us to retrieve them for him, also to say hi to Vine if we bump into him. Not much else really happened in this level. I got a few more skill points, upgraded Weiss a bit more, and found an impossible jump. But besides that, not much really. After this, we unlock a new town called Atlas Heights, and it's basically the same as the previous one. We run into Harriet here. She notices the weaponry the thugs were using was very advanced, and she has some intel that suggests a weapon furnishing operation must have been taking place in a dust mine near the southern coast, and marks it on our map so we can check it out. She also asks us to bring 3 weapon tech to her so she can file a report for General Ironwood, so we set off to go do that. But not just yet, because we need to get Marrow's goggles back, so I headed to Tumak Ruins. This level introduces a new type of Grimm to us, a saber. It runs back and forth for a moment until it stops, giving us ample time to take it down. We also run into Penny here, who has found another mysterious gate that's somehow in the ancient ruins, to which Weiss assumes that the circuitry in her head might have rusted over. Okay, Weiss, calm down, you're sounding a lot more like your Volume 1 self there. We also run into Vine in this level, and he tells us that some ancient artifacts have gone missing and asks if we can track them down, and tells us to come back once we've found 3. Not much else happens here besides an ambush that we need to complete to move on and finally obtain Marrow's goggles, so let's head back to him. And I couldn't actually remember what level he was in. I knew he was in Atlas, but I didn't know which level. If only there was some way the game could... I don't know. Tell me!
Ignore him. For he... Yeah, he's dumb.
After that idiocy, we manage to track him down and give him the goggles, and he rewards us by giving us a can of grape soda, which he says he accidentally got from a vending machine. We take it back to Elm and she tells us some shit we already knew, so that was a grand old waste of time. So how about we head to the dust mine and see if there's anything new there. This level introduces us to a new type of Grimm, a razor wing. Sick name, by the way. It can either launch 3 projectiles at you, or dive down to attack you. Other than that, there wasn't too much of note here, besides the ambush we need in order to get the first ancient artifact, and another one to get a weapon tech. And a third one to get another weapon tech. I guess I didn't have too many ideas when designing this level. And are you fucking kidding me? A 4th one? Did they really have no other ideas? A mini-boss, a puzzle, just something that isn't 4 ambushes back to back. Let's just hope that this level is a bit of filler and there'll be better ones in the future, I guess. At least we got our 3rd weapon tech that we needed to bring to Harriet, and when we do, she actually upgrades Ruby's semblance, allowing her to dash further, which I immediately used in one of the first levels to get up to this previously unreachable ledge, which gets us a skill point, and after another ambush, we get the 2nd ancient artifact we need. And after heading back to Atlas and... we get our 3rd and final ancient artifact, which we take back to Vine, and with that we've officially helped all of the Aesopes and we can head back to Atlas Academy. Once we talk to Harper, she tells us that she's found more of those orbs all across the kingdom and that they could be connected to Arrowfell, which was a classified research facility run by the military to develop highly experimental weapons, and she suspects that one Amoncio Glass, an elite mobster, is behind it all. Harper then marks his location on our map and we set off to stop him, leading into our next boss, Amoncio Glass in the Glass Cannon Mark II. And this boss is actually pretty fun. It reminded me of a boss that you would see in a Sonic game, what with the orbs that you have to avoid and the missiles that you have to wait to explode. This boss is great and it might actually be my favourite in the game. But either way, we take him down and he tells us that the orbs are used as bait for Grimm and that he's just a pawn for the real people behind this, and with that, Chapter 2 ends and Chapter 3, Playing with Emotions, begins. This chapter starts off with an animated cutscene of Team RWBY meeting with General Ironwood, Olive Harper and Bram Thornmane. Harper reveals that they believed Amoncio Glass only managed to get his hands on the technology he armed his goons with thanks to the help of someone inside the military, and that the negative emotions inside the orbs were being stolen by someone in the kingdom. A man by the name of Hanlon Fifestone specifically, whose semblance allows him to absorb people's raw emotions. Team RWBY is ordered to go to Mantle, find Fifestone and stop him, which they set off to go do. And wow, they got the atmosphere of Mantle down perfectly. From the smoke coming out of the buildings to the darker and dingy colour of the buildings compared to Atlas's bright, vibrant buildings, and the way they're all tightly packed together, they got this one perfect. This level introduces us to a new type of thug. They have this huge wrench that they can slam down like a hammer or throw like a boomerang, but with Blake's semblance they were pretty easy to take care of. Oh, I should probably mention that for this chapter I'm mainly going to be focusing on Blake and... what the hell is that? Well, it's a new type of enemy called a saw blade tank. It uses the buzzsaws on each of its arms to charge forward or spin around in a circle, but with Blake's semblance I was able to take it down. There's also a new type of Grimm in this level, a Lancer. They fly around in the circle and fire their stinger at you when you get into their line of sight, so I just took it out from a distance. But besides those new enemies, this level was the basic shindig. Explore the level, defeat the enemies, get skill points from chests, and that's basically it. And honestly, it's been kind of hard to write this script because of that. So from now on, I'm just going to focus on the important stuff, like new enemies or things that may happen in the levels that I feel I need to bring up. I actually missed a few alternate paths in that level, so I went in again to see where they led. Damn it. Penny! She's found another weird gate and still doesn't know what they are or what they do. When Weiss asks what she does know, she responds that she knows a lot of things and asks which topic she can enlighten Weiss on. And Weiss acts very aggressively here and says that she'll disassemble her into scraps, which... is it just me? Or would Weiss just not say that at this point in the story? And not to Penny of all people, who, spoilers for Volume 3 by the way, she saw die in that exact same way. And I joked about it earlier, but she's acting a lot like her Volume 1 self here. It's incredibly strange. But either way, there's not much left to do here, so I left and went to the next town, Mantle Alley. We run into Crow here, and he somehow managed to nab Winter's saber, but is getting tired of carrying it around, so he gives it to us to give back to her. He also mentions that he hid 5 surveillance drones around the city to watch Fifestone, and marks 3 of them on our map, only because he's forgotten where 2 of them are. We also talk to this Faunus girl called Mikado, and she says that Faunus have been going missing all around Mantle, and that she's afraid to go outside just in case she gets taken too, and that maybe if she had something to hide her Faunus traits, maybe she'd be more confident. A feeling Blake knows all too well, as she used to wear a bow to cover her cat ears and swears she held onto it, which... no you didn't. You dropped it into the ocean in Volume 4. Unless you have another one, in which case... why? The whole point of the bow was to hide who you were, why the hell would you keep it? Mikado also mentions that Hanlon Fifestone was seen at Mosset Grotto yesterday, and marks it on our map so we can check it out. But not before we head back to Atlas Academy to give Winter back her saber. After we do so, she rewards us by upgrading Weiss's semblance, and tells us to head to the new Schnee Mine and clear it of all Grimm, whilst at the same time collecting her a dust sample. So we head to the first crater cavern, and what awaits us but an ambush that has mostly thugs with some Grimm that I take care of before getting the first surveillance drone. Then I head to the second crater cavern and do another ambush, which is all Grimm, before getting the second and heading to the third crater cavern, which I can't access. I assume I have to get a semblance upgrade for Blake so she can make 2 shadows, so for now I left it and headed to Mosset Grotto, did another ambush, and moved on. God, these ambushes are getting kind of annoying. We then run into this guy, BRIR, who is the mayor of this... town? And has lost the town bird, the Goshawk, and tells us to check Tumak Ruins to try and find it, which we set out to do. So I headed to Tumak Ruins, got up to this ledge that was previously inaccessible before, find the Goshawk hidden in a chest... okay. And headed back to Mosset Grotto to give it to him, after which he gives us one of the surveillance drones that Crow lost track of. After this I headed to the new Schnee Mine and we do yet another ambush. I mean honestly, isn't there anything else you can put in these levels? Oh my god, there's another one. Way Forward must have really run out of ideas for this level. But after all that, we get the dust sample we needed and head back to Atlas Academy to give it back to Winter. After we do, she says that she found Blake's bow in Atlas Academy's Lost and Found and gives it to her. So we head back to Mantle Alley and give it to Mikado. I'd bring it out first, it's been in the ocean. She rewards us by upgrading Blake's semblance, which I immediately headed to Crater Cavern 3 to use. But for some reason there was an exclamation mark over one of the Mantle levels, so I decided to check it out. After using Blake's upgraded semblance and dealing with 2 more ambushes, we get yet another surveillance drone and head to the third Crater Cavern. Once we're there, we deal with another ambush and get our final surveillance drone, which we bring back to Crow, and he manages to track down Hanlon Fifestone. Turns out he's in a Mantle Industrial Center, so we head there to finally take him down. After this, we get this honestly terrifying cutscene of Fifestone using his semblance to extract the fear from someone, before Team RWBY comes in and the boss fight begins. This boss is incredibly fun. He starts by using earth dust to launch a volley of rocks towards you, but you can use Blake's semblance to redirect them. Then he uses wind dust to spin around and Beyblade from one side of the arena to the other, but he gets tired afterwards, giving you ample time to attack him. He then combines his dust to send a pillar of air and rocks towards you, but he only launches them directly in front of him, so your goal is to attack him from behind. But after using Blake's semblance to double my damage, I was able to take him out just fine. After this, we get a cutscene of Hanlon Fifestone getting arrested before he presses an ominous button which RWBY assumes that he was turning on a TV with. And with that, it can no longer be ignored. Now I joked about it earlier in this review, but at certain points in this game, I couldn't help but feel like the characterization of some of the characters was just a tiny bit off. First it was Weiss threatening to turn Penny into heaps of scraps, then it was Blake somehow having her bow after dropping it into the ocean in Volume 4, and now it's RWBY assuming that an ominous remote was turning on a TV? And it gets even weirder when you realise the writers for this game are the writers of the show. So if anyone should know how these characters are supposed to act, it's them. Except it isn't. If you look around on Google, then you'll see that the writers of this game are the people who I just mentioned, the writers of RWBY. But if you look at the credits, you'll see that it was actually written by James Montagna, Rob Buchanan, and Adam Tierney, which after a bit of digging turns out were WayForward employees. Which leads me to my theory. I think that the writers of RWBY, Kerry Shawcross, Miles Luna, and Eddie Rivas, laid out the story of the game to WayForward and probably wrote some of the animated cutscenes that have no characterization issues whatsoever. But the in-game dialogue was written by WayForward, and I have to assume that they didn't watch the show past Volume 2, because if they did, they would know that Penny was reduced to a pile of scraps, you morons! It makes you think that WayForward really didn't care about the game they were making here, and judging by the amount of ambushes we've dealt with so far, yeah, that tracks. But with that, Chapter 3 ends, and Chapter 4, Hunt of the Huntresses, begins. When Team RWBY returned to Atlas Academy, they learned from Harper and Ironwood that Grimm attacks had started all over the continent, and realized that Fivestone had activated orbs all over the continent. They tasked Team RWBY with locating the 4 orbs across Solitas that were attracting the Grimm, and to destroy them. They also tell us to investigate the ice fishing village of Dormir, which we set off to go do. God, I say that a lot. And once we're here, we're immediately introduced to a new type of Grimm, the Apathy. They can either scream at you to attack you, or swipe at you, and taking them down with Yang isn't too easy. We run into Penny again in this level, who has found yet another gate, and at this point I'm just going to assume that this is post-game content and I can't do it yet. Later on in the level we come across a new Grimm, a Manticore. They fly around and shoot fireballs at you. But with that, that's basically everything new in this level, so we exit and head to the next town, Dormir Outskirts. Here we meet Sai AU, who is the sister of Zur, who we met in the first chapter? The second? This script is so damn long I can't even remember. She rewards us for helping her sister by giving us some combustion dust, which Yang somehow uses to upgrade her semblance. And you know what that means? Backtracking time! Because now we can destroy metal blocks instead of stone ones, which I use in Atlas Main Street East, which leads me to another ambush. Goodie. But once that's done, we move on and find one of the orbs, which starts another ambush? What was the point of the previous one then? But I guess this one is kind of different because I need to destroy the orb instead of killing the Grimm, which as Yang was easy to do. And that's the basic loot for this chapter. Mantle City Streets East, break the box. Cross Remains, break the box. Dormir Village East, break the box. But with that we're done, so we head back to Ironwood and Harper, and she says that the person behind this has set up a secret base in the barren tundra to the east, and the quickest way to get there is by train, so she sends us to accompany a battalion of Atlesian forces, just in case something goes wrong. So we head to Gehen Station, and at the start of the level this woman asks if we're ready to board, and why are they giving me an option? Is this the final boss? Why else would they ask me? But I am ready, so I board the train and start the next level properly. I forgot healing items. And this level is really cool, because it takes place on the train as you go from train car to train car, as you avoid Atlesian soldiers and robots that are attacking us for some reason. And sure, there are some ambushes, but at this point it's nothing I can't deal with. So we make our way further along the train, deal with an ambush, and move on to the next room that starts another ambush. No. I tolerated the orbs, I understood having multiple ambushes in one level in separate areas, but having 2 ambushes back to back is too far. And this happens twice in the level, so that is 2 entire train cars that you could remove from this level and it wouldn't affect anything about the level structure. But at least we get to fight another giant mech, so that's cool. After that shit show, we get an animated cutscene of Team RWBY fighting more Atlesian troops, until RWBY realizes that this was Harper's doing and that she set them up, before the train crashes and they fall. Which leads into the next level, which isn't too special, it's basically just a reskin of the Ruins level. But you know what is special about this level? Instead of doing 2 ambushes in a row, you do 3. So that's 2 entire rooms that you can cut out of this level and nothing changes. I'm not saying the developers got lazy, I'm merely implying it. Once we're through that, we run into Team BRIR, who are actually introduced to us this time. You know, 70% of the way through the game. That they were the main selling point of. I'm not saying the developers got lazy, I'm merely... Which leads into our next boss fight, and this one is actually pretty unique. But let's go over each of the characters' attacks first. Bianca can move from one wall to another while repeatedly slashing and entering portals before showing up in the centre. Ruda can dig into the ground and pop up anywhere. Rowan can send fireballs in your direction, and Ivy can launch projectiles through portals to damage you. The way this boss is unique is because it's more like a Mega Man boss, because each member of Team BRIR is weak to each member of Team RWBY's semblances. So Bianca is weak to RWBY, Ivy is weak to Weiss, Rowan is weak to Blake, and Ruda is weak to Yang. Not that I put that together while I was playing, but hey, I was able to knock Ruda down here. Once we beat them, they run off, Chapter 4 ends, and the final chapter, the end of Arrowfell, begins. Very subtle. This chapter starts with Team RWBY returning to Atlas Academy and learning from Ironwood that both Harper and Thornmane had both retreated into Fort Arrowfell, after they were discovered to be behind the conspiracy. While they discuss on how to access Fort Arrowfell, Ironwood states that the only people who have had official access to the facility anymore are the Keepers of Arrowfell, whose identities were a secret only known to Ironwood's predecessors in the military. When they hear this, RWBY reveals that Team BRIR called themselves the Keepers of Arrowfell, and realise that they have to locate them to gain access to the facility. When we get to Fort Arrowfell, we find Clover and Penny there trying to unlock the gate. Clover reveals that in order to locate Team BRIR and gain access to the facility, they needed to gain access to the Crystal Nexus, a series of interconnected tunnels underneath all of Solitas that they had been using to travel from place to place. These are the gates that Penny was studying before. So we head to Crossed Remains, find the gate, Penny opens it, we deal with another ambush with these new robot crab enemies, and find Bianca at the end, who gives us one of the 4 Nexus keys we need to get into Fort Arrowfell. And we do that for the remaining 3 in their respective levels, which I don't have much to say about really. The only things of note are getting the Nexus keys from Team BRIR, and that's it, so I think I'll just skip over these. Oh, there's also this part where Penny says that as long as she's around, she will continue to support her friends. Why would you make her say that? Are you trying to make me cry? Once we make it back to Fort Arrowfell, Clover uses them to open the door to the fort so we can enter and commence the final level of the game. The only things of note in this level are the enemies. There's these drones that spin in a circle and shoot at you whenever you enter its line of sight, kinda like the Lancer Grimm but smaller. There's the aforementioned robot crabs that jump up and down to attack you, and these big robots with shields on either arm which I cannot for the life of me figure out how to defeat. Every hit just pings right off and I can't figure out what to do. Partway through the level we run into Harper again, who reveals that she too was betrayed by Thornmane. Wow, this guy's just a dick, isn't he? And she gives us 5 skill points and leaves so we can take care of Thornmane properly. Speaking of, here we are at the final boss, Bram Thornmane himself, and he's pretty tough. He can either charge at you with his blades to attack you, which you can avoid by just being above him, shoot a volley of arrows in a triangular formation that you have to avoid by finding the areas that the arrows don't reach, attack you rapidly with a flurry of slashes, shoot a set of homing arrows that you can redirect using Blake's shadows, or shoot multiple arrows into the air that rain down in a given space that you have to avoid by getting to an area that's clear. Oh, get it? Arrowfell! Very clever. Once he's beaten, he powers up and causes 4 orbs to appear that continuously summon Grimm, and we have to destroy them while they attack us. But much like with the previous orbs, Yang makes this very easy. Once we've destroyed those, this triggers phase 3 of the fight, which isn't that different to phase 1, there's just smaller platforms. After this, we get an animated cutscene of Thornmane being apprehended, before telling Ironwood that it's only a matter of time until people see who he truly is, which would go on to be true in Volume 8. Ironwood then congratulates Team RWBY on a job well done, they then fist bump, together we, and the credits roll. And that is RWBY Arrowfell, a beautiful mess from start to finish. I don't hate this game, but I do think there are a lot of things holding it back. For example, the repetition. You are repeating a lot of what you do in these levels, and by chapter 3, you can really notice it. Besides the new enemy types, you are doing the same things for every level. Exploring the levels, killing all the enemies, completing the quests, finding skill points, giving items to NPCs that lead you on other quests through other levels, to other NPCs that give you items to other quests, so on and so forth. It's repetitive, is what I'm trying to say. It makes me think that a Metroidvania wasn't a good idea for a RWBY game. And if you want to see my idea of a RWBY game, go look at my Grimm Eclipse video. I lay it all out there. Another thing, I don't know why this game needed to take place in Atlas. You could have replaced Atlas with Beacon, Ironwood with Ozpin, and the Aesops with characters like Glinda, Oobleck, and Poor, and nothing would have changed. Speaking of the other characters, Team Juniper, gone. Not in this game at all. I guess you don't need the main characters in the show. yes, Team Juniper are as important as Team RWBY are in the show, but besides those things, this game is fine. Serviceable at best, and the music's good, so there's that. But I wouldn't call it my favourite RWBY game, so I guess we'll have to see what the third RWBY game can do in 2030 when the show wraps up. Oh, come on!